This is a short video to cover off the union links. I tackled these whilst I'm waiting for the Loctite to go off on the various joints as I'm rebuilding the driving wheel assembly. Again, Don specifies gauge plate, but as before I think that's overkill, so I'll be running with mild steel. We're in familiar territory for making these. I start with a couple of bits of bar, cut slightly longer than required with one end cleaned up. I'll use the clean end as a reference to drill the first hole, and then working with the DRO, offset accordingly on the x-axis, and drill the hole at the other end. The bar I'm using is 3/8 by quarter, which is 9.52 by 6.35mm. I'm actually looking for 7mm by 6.35, so I'll use a slot drill and bring that thickness down to size. For the rounded ends, I turn up a couple of silver steel buttons, harden them, and then use them as a guide for the file. For the forked end, I first drill a hole for the end of the slot. And then very carefully, using a 3mm slot drill, I open out the rest of the slot. I give the part a quick clean with some emery before moving on. To get the profile from a plan perspective, I do need to remove quite a bit of material, so after finding the end of the workpiece, I use a slot drill to get rid of most of it. I then use a ball nose slot drill to put a radius on that corner. Next I use a radius cutter to soften up that top corner, but it's really a bit too big. I do need to take a little bit off the other side, but as we can see, work holding it is now getting rather precarious. I don't try and be quite so precise on this side, and after marking the workpiece with a Sharpie, I scribe a line to give my limit for the cut. To machine the side profile, I make a small jig in the milling machine. Basically it's just a bit of flat bar with a couple of holes drilled and tapped to align to the holes in the union link. The hole to the right is tapped at 5BA, and this is for the drop arm end of the link. I've turned a small spacer to sit below the link to hold it level. The other hole is tapped at 6BA, and I've turned another spacer, this one to sit inside the fork so that it doesn't get compressed and bent when I tighten down the bolt. I've also placed an additional washer at either end, but this is somewhat unnecessary. With the link firmly clamped in place, I use a 3mm slot drill to start taking off the material. I do this by eye for the first side, and once I'm happy I set the DRO accordingly, which I then work off for the other side and both the sides on the other link. To clean up the transition from the round ends to the main body, I use a selection of needle files and some emery cloth. A few minutes with some emery cloth finishes these parts off quite nicely. Thanks for watching.